Hello, Tony Tween from the Estuary Group of churches, bringing you today's thought for the day. Recently, a friend of ours sent us an email with some encouraging words in it, and with her permission, I'm using it today for the basis of my devotion. I wonder if you've noticed how in this period of shutdown and isolation, our streets have become very much quieter. Where we live in Chelmsford, the road outside serves 3 different schools. And so in the early morning and in the later afternoon, we're used to hearing the chatter, the laughter, the noise caused by children. But obviously during the isolation and shutdown, that now no longer happens. It seems that there is an increasing quietness in our neighbourhoods. And that led me to think, whose voice are we listening to in the quietness? The new government slogan says, "Stay alert, control the virus, and save lives." But this slogan and the one previous often have breathed into our lives an anxious thought, a worried concern about what's going to happen. Today, as Christians, we need to hear another voice, the voice of God, the voice that says, "I will never leave you or forsake you," a voice that says, "Come unto me, all you are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." A voice that says, "My peace I leave with you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid." A voice that cried from the cross, "It is finished." A voice that told the women at the tomb, "Do not be afraid." In the times that we're going through, we may be anxious, worried, even fearful. But once we've heard the voice of Jesus speaking into our lives, we no longer need to experience those thoughts and feelings. We can be filled with joy, knowing that Jesus has conquered death and conquered the grave. In Psalm 46, we read these words, "Be still and know that I am God." The New American Standard Translation puts it like this: "Cease striving, let go, relax, and know that I am God." To hear God, our first need really is to be still and to be quiet. It's much easier to hear the voice of God when we're in that situation. When you enter a quiet place, take time, a few moments to become still. Have your Bible open, and when you're still, you'll be able to feel and to sense God's presence even more. Once you're still, once you've quietened your heart and mind, focus on Jesus. Picture him standing with you right where you are. The more we practice being still, the easier it is to quickly hear him speak to each one of us. The more we practice becoming still, the easier it becomes to hear his voice. And even though God speaks to each one of us very differently, there are typical ways in which he does communicate to us. If we've got our Bible open and read a few verses, if we spend a time in prayer, if we think about his love and his faithfulness, then he'll speak to us. He very rarely speaks to us in an audible voice, but as we look at his word, as we spend time in prayer, we will find him speaking to us. I think it's quite a good idea to have a journal beside you to record how you feel and how you hear. Your journal is a way of saying to God, "I value what you're going to say to me." It's also a step of faith, showing that you expect him to speak to you. In Luke chapter 8, there's the story of Jesus saying to the disciples, let's get in the boat and go over to the other side. The story goes on to say that while they were in the boat, Jesus fell asleep, but then a storm blew up. It was such a vicious storm that even the fishermen who were used to being out on the lake got frightened. They woke Jesus up and said, Master, we're going to drown. They'd not heard the voice of Jesus saying to them, let's go over to the other side. They could not drown because in essence, Jesus had promised them, let's go over to the other side. When we're caught in the storms of life, it's easy to think that God has lost control and that we're at the mercy of the winds of fate. In reality, God is sovereign. He controls the history of the world as well as our personal destiny. Just as Jesus calmed the waves on Galilee, he can calm whatever storm you are facing. As we consider our present situation and the pandemic that we're living through, be encouraged that we will reach the other side. God has promised to be with us. Take comfort and confidence that life will get back to normal one day. We will once again be able to cuddle our family and hug our friends. Life and church may never quite be the same, but be assured of this: we will be the stronger and the closer and appreciate one another and God all the more, and the blessings that he pours out onto our lives. My friends, the voice that we hear in this period of COVID-19 is not the voice of fear, media, or the enemy, but listen and hear that small voice of God that says, peace, be still. In Jeremiah 33, God says to us, call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things that you do not know. You see, God isn't reluctant to speak to us. God assured Jeremiah, and God asks us to trust him in the pandemic that we're going through. You see, God is ready to answer our prayers, to guide our footsteps. But first, we must ask for his assistance. Some might think, well, why doesn't God just take care of our needs without our asking? But when we ask, we're acknowledging that he alone is God and that we cannot accomplish all the plans he has for us in our own strength. When we ask, when we humble ourselves, when we lay aside our willfulness and worry and fear, be assured that God listens to us, and be determined to obey him. God bless you, and keep you listening.